How's everyone doing?
Great!
Woo! Wow! I can't possibly express how pleased I am to see so many faces that came to support us today. So 23 days ago, a few people on the internet were outraged at the information brought to light by the PRISM scandal. They collaborated to start this movement, and few became many. We gathered support and volunteers all over the country who worked tirelessly on this project, 14, 16 hours most days. We have had almost zero funding from the beginning, and in most cases, individuals were donating money out of their own pockets to help us raise awareness for the issue of NSA spying. Along with that, we were contacted by several other local and national civil liberties organizations who also wanted to stand up and let their voice be heard, so they decided to join us in our fight. The result of the hard work of those volunteers is what you see around you here today. Today, we have many guest speakers who have come to talk to you and educate you on the extent of these surveillance programs and how these things are affecting you. They will tell you that I have nothing to hide is just not an acceptable argument in support of PRISM and other spying operations like it anymore. They will tell you that you don't have to be that you don't have to be a person of interest or a suspected terrorist to be targeted by these programs, and that most importantly, they will explain how this degradation of our Fourth Amendment rights can ultimately lead to the degradation of our other civil liberties. Today is just the beginning. Tomorrow is when the real action begins. Restore the Fourth is dedicated to working with each other as well as our congressmen in the Senate to get some reform on this important issues despite our many differences. Thank you for coming out and enjoy the rally. Back over to Elise.
Okay, so I'm going to get started with the speakers. We have, like Andrea said, a really terrific lineup of speakers from all walks of life, from everywhere from concerned citizens to people very active in civil liberties in D.C. and in the greater nation of the United States. Our first speaker of the day is Amy Stefanovich. Is Amy here?
Right here. I'm behind you.
Great, thanks. Amy is the director of the Domestic Surveillance Project at the Electronic Privacy Innovation Center. EPIC is a nonprofit research center founded in 1994 to focus public attention on emerging issues related to privacy and civil liberties. In her role, Amy works on the issues of national security, digital identity, and developing surveillance technologies. Please welcome Amy.
Hi everyone, happy 4th of July. So 1 month ago, people in the domestic surveillance privacy community thought things had gotten pretty bad. We had the DOJ investigating reporters, we had body scanners in airports, drones in the sky, and we were thinking, what are we going to do about this privacy problem? 29 days ago, things got a lot worse. Because 29 days ago, on June 5th, 2013, The Guardian published an order from the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court. That order demonstrated that the National Security Agency had been receiving data on everybody in the United States, who they're calling, who they're talking to, where they are, what they're doing. It was an incredible invasion of privacy. 29 days ago, I was in San Francisco, and I woke up to see this order published on The Guardian's website. Very shortly after that, I got a phone call from a very good friend of mine who really hasn't ever been that involved in privacy or surveillance. Has never really understood what I did. And she was talking to me, and the first words were, what do I do? What do I do? I'm outraged. I need to do something. And I thought that's a really good question. What can we do? So 4 days later, and 4 times more outrage later, as we received 4 more stories from The Guardian about how our privacy, how our rights were being invaded by the government, I came back to D.C. and I sat back in my office and I met with people in my office, and that was the question I posed to them. What do we do? The NSA has made us all into numbers. They made us all taken away our autonomy, taken away our personhood, and put us into a database. And what do? In that spirit, EPIC has done a lot. We started off filing Freedom of Information Act requests. We were trying to get more information about what the government was doing. We sent letters to Congress. We called for oversight. We demanded that Congress investigate the acts of the National Security Agency and the FBI and the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court. And they started to do that, but it wasn't enough. So we continued to ask ourselves, what do? So I'm really proud to announce that EPIC is doing a couple things that we expect to really change what's going on. A couple weeks ago, we launched a petition to the National Security Agency. There's this really great little law called the Administrative Procedure Act, and it says that an agency like the NSA cannot do anything that has a substantive impact on anybody's rights without getting input from people. Now, I wasn't asked by the NSA if I could have my information collected and put in a database. Were any of you asked? I don't think so. So we wrote to the NSA. We got public sign-ons. We're submitting to the NSA a petition every single week until they respond and ask why they did not come to the public, as required by the law, to get input on this program. And I'm even more proud to announce that on Monday, EPIC is going to file with the Supreme Court of the United States a petition asking the Supreme Court to vacate the order that allowed them to collect this information in the first place and prevent them from getting any more orders seeking our information. Because we should not have our personhood taken away. We should not have our autonomy taken away. We are not numbers. We are free people. And on the 4th of July and on every day after this, we need to tell the NSA that we will not let them do this to us any longer. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amy. My crate's a little wrong. Anyway, I would just like to remind the crowd to tweet to our hashtag #RestoreThe4th, letter 4TH. Social media is really how we're going to get out there. It's great that we have such great media coverage, but take pictures, post pictures, tell your friends. That would be a really great service to the Restore the Fourth movement. Our next speaker is Thomas Nephew. He helped found the Montgomery County Civil Rights Coalition, which is dedicated to preserving civil liberties everywhere by preserving them at home. Together, they've opposed unwarranted Metro bag searches, a youth curfew, a loitering law, the NDAA, the NSA dragnet surveillance, and advocate a County Civil Rights Restoration Act. Thomas has also been active in Get FISA Right, an organization dedicated to opposing the FISA Amendments Act, the Patriot Act, and rejecting the politics of fear on national security. Please welcome Thomas.
Thank you. I'd like you to please say this with me. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects.
The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, and personal effects.
Against unreasonable searches and seizures.
Against unreasonable searches and seizures.
Shall not be violated.
Shall not be violated.
And no warrants shall issue.
And no warrant shall issue.
But upon probable cause.
But upon probable cause.
Supported by oath or affirmation.
Supported by oath or affirmation.
And particularly describing the place to be searched. And the persons or things to be seized.
And the persons or things to be seized.
That's your right.
That's my right.
Like so many of us here and many of the people that are going to be speaking, I've been warning about what laws like the FISA Amendment Act and the Patriot Act and the Protect America Act are doing to our freedoms for years. Thanks to some courageous journalists and a courageous whistleblower, we're here today to say we told you so. Let's hear it for Edward Snowden. But let's focus this conversation on our rights. Let's help people realize that privacy must not be a thing of the past, that it's another word for freedom itself. The freedom to think one's own thoughts, the freedom to go one's own way, the freedom to choose one's friends and call or email them without every single one of those choices winding up on some metadata base for some NSA analyst to look at. That's the opposite of reasonable, the opposite of particular, the opposite of justified. It's the opposite of the Fourth Amendment. Part of this needs to be realizing just how much is broken. It's not just the NSA, it's not just the FBI. Local, state and local law enforcement have been granted ever more sweeping authorities, especially in connection with the war on drugs, to ignore the Fourth Amendment. Too many of us ignored that, thinking like that sad Twitter feed you've probably seen, I've got nothing to hide. That's not about me. That was wrong. What gives me new determination and new hope is seeing so many of you here today. You've come from far and wide to make July 4th mean something more than parades and hot dogs and fireworks. You're declaring a little independence of your own. I think you deserve to give yourselves a hand. And don't stop today. Like you've done today, don't confine yourselves to pointing and clicking. Get out among people with clipboards, with events, with petitions, with whatever you can think of. It's really important to make this movement inescapable, to make it something people are thinking about all the time. And it's important that we write our own history as we go, with videos, with blog posts, with letters to the editor, with conversations with other people. That tells people, including ourselves, that we're not giving up on this. And so I really want to thank you in coming, and I'd like to start right now. Please join me in shouting so loud they can hear it in the White House and in Congress. Restore the Fourth!
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 Thanks.
Thank you so much, Thomas. Our next speaker is Sahid Buttar. He has led the Bill of Rights Defense Committee, BORDC, and its national grassroots network since 2009. He graduated from Stanford Law School in 2003 and has promoted transpartisan grassroots constitutionalism for the past decade across the country as an organizer, trainer, writer, public speaker, lawyer, and performance artist. Please join me in welcoming Sahid.
I am so happy to celebrate our National Independence Day with you here today in McPherson Square. It's great to be here, and it's even better that you're here. And I do just want to invite everyone here to take advantage of the opportunity today to meet someone new, get their phone number, and meet with them again in coffee in 2 weeks. That's how we're going to build a movement that not just starts today, but continues into the future. The August congressional recess is a time when our members of Congress are exposed to grassroots criticism to a greater degree than any other point during the congressional cycle. This August is the time to restore the Fourth, and it starts today, but it will not end today, and your meeting each other and following up will be the engine to make sure that happens. I want to give a quick shout out to Restore the Fourth, as well as all the different organizations that came together to promote and co-sponsor today's events. You'll find a very broad swath of America sharing your concerns. I want to talk briefly about corruption. We've heard a lot about privacy, about secrecy, and about unaccountability. But when presidential administrations across each of the major parties support dragnet, warrantless, mass surveillance, and Congress, across the leadership of both major parties, legislates in the dark to give the executive branch blank checks, and the courts punt meaningful judicial review and refuse to reach the merits of these questions, and the ultimate result is secret laws giving secret agencies secret amounts of public dollars to give to private corporations to abuse our rights. That is the essence of corruption. And I'll just put it like this before I kick a rhyme for you one time. If Edward Snowden is going to face prosecution for releasing uncomfortable government secrets to the American public about how our tax dollars are being used to abuse our rights, then the Director of National Intelligence, James Clapper, should face prosecution for perjury for lying to Congress and the American public earlier this year. So I'm going to spin a rhyme, and I'm going to ask you to repeat the last verse with me. The NSA breaks the law every day. It doesn't matter who you are or what you say. They monitor your phone calls and emails anyway. Corrupt Congress and courts paving the way. Here's a lesson you will learn someday. Watch what you say. They spy on your mind, record your calls for posterity, commit daily executive crimes with impunity. They're the authorities. They're here to keep us safe until inevitably the boot ends up on your face. So you ready to spit the last half with me? Yeah? All right. Here's a lesson you'll learn someday. Watch what you say. They spy on your mind. Record your calls for posterity. Commit daily executive crimes with impunity. They're the authorities. They're here to keep us safe. Until inevitably the boot ends up on your face. Thank you so much for being out today and raising your voice.
Thank you, Zahid.
All right.
I just wanted to let everyone know that there is a pile of signs over to my left if anyone is interested in picking them up and spreading the word for our message. Our next speaker is Sue Udry. She is the Executive Director of Defending Dissent Foundation, which has been fighting government repression and dissent for over 50 years. Defending Dissent Foundation was targeted by the FBI, which compiled a 132,000-page dossier on the organization and its director, although they never did anything illegal. Sue Udry, everyone.
Hi, everybody. Oh my, you all look so beautiful. You look so innocent. What are you trying to hide? But we all know that the real question is, the real question should be, the real question must be, we're innocent. Why the hell is our government watching us? So, here we are on the 4th of July. Happy 4th. And by that I mean 4th Amendment. We're responsible citizens doing what our founding fathers wanted us to do. They wanted us to be informed. They wanted us to hold our government accountable. So we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, and the government is doing what they are not supposed to be doing. They're watching us. The FBI has gotten permission from a secret court under secret law to scoop up all our metadata. The government is telling us they're not scooping up our GPS signals on our phone. They've said that under oath. I believe them, don't you? So, but in spite of that, what's really got me bugged is what the FBI is allowed to do and what we've known for a long time that they've been allowed to do and what we've known for a long time that they are doing. Without suspecting us of a crime, they are explicitly allowed to monitor our First Amendment activity. They're allowed to interview your neighbors. They're allowed to interview your coworkers without telling them that they're FBI agents. They're allowed to follow us 24 hours a day, who we're talking to, where we're going, what we're doing, and creating dossiers about us in real life. Not just our virtual life is eligible for constant surveillance. They're allowed to dig through our trash. And they're allowed to infiltrate us with either undercover FBI agents or paid informants. And it's the paid informants that really get me. These people are criminals. They're trying to get out of going to jail by spying on us. They infiltrate us, they report back, and we end up in files under categories like terrorist-peace activist. How many terrorist-peace activists do we have in the crowd today? I see Medea, I see Martine, I see a whole bunch. So they infiltrate us, they create files on us, but still they're not finding criminal activity. What the hell? So they step up out their tactics, and these paid informants and FBI agents and police agents decide they're going to play the role of agent provocateur. We've seen it over and over again, where they instigate and they urge illegal activity to undermine and discredit the movements that are challenging their power. So to me, this rally for the 4th is crucial for the First Amendment. And so right now I just want to give a quick shout out to Thomas Drake, who's here, and other whistleblowers. These people, yeah, give them a hand, yay, Thomas Drake. These are true American heroes. They can tell you that our government, our democracy, will throw you under the bus. They'll put you through hell, not for being a criminal, not for doing anything wrong, not for torturing, not for spying, illegal spying, not for killing civilians. No, they will throw you under the bus. They will persecute you relentlessly for revealing the criminal conduct of our government. So you go ahead and you be a powerful government official, and you torture, and you murder civilians, and you illegally surveil us. That's fine. Just don't speak truth to power. And that's what this is all about.
So I just got a text from the NSA, and they said they couldn't hear us when we said restore the 4th, so I think we should give it another try. After me, restore the 4th!
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 Awesome. Our next speaker is Carla Howell. She is the current president of the Libertarian Party. Prior to her appointment as the executive director for the National Libertarian Party, Carla Howell championed 3 statewide ballot initiatives in Massachusetts between 2002 and 2010. Each initiative won almost 1 million votes. She ran for office 3 times in Massachusetts for U.S. Senate, Governor, and State Auditor. Carla Howell has been featured as a standalone guest on the Neil Cavuto Show, O'Reilly Factor, Glenn Beck, Fox Business News, and hundreds of TV and radio interviews and debates since 1999. Her campaigns were covered by the NY Times, the LA Times, the Boston Globe, the Economist, the Financial Times, the Wall Street Journal, USA Today, and she and the Libertarian Party have been outspoken advocates for the 4th Amendment forever. Please welcome Carla.
Happy Independence Day, everybody! Let's all wave to the drones up there. Hi! If you want to be really helpful, write your social security number on a piece of paper and tape it to the top of your head. That will keep us safe. No? Thanks to the brave and patriotic actions of whistleblower Edward Snowden, most Americans now know that their 4th Amendment right to privacy has been blown out of the water, that the government has routinely spied on millions of Americans. You're being watched, listened to, and tracked just about everywhere. Luckily, there's one place in America where you're not being watched. One very important place where you're free to do as you please without Big Brother eavesdropping on you. Not when you're on private telephone calls, they're being logged and in some cases listened to. Not your emails, not your text messages, not your Skype sessions, not your chat sessions. Those are part of the government's sweeping, unconstitutional surveillance programs. Not your medical records. The government has authorized thousands of people to access your personal medical chart. Not city streets. Cameras on many street corners enable government officials to watch and listen to your private conversations. Not your bank records, not even your home, where authorities can break in with a sneak and peek order from a secret judge. There are not too many places in America where today you can speak or act completely in privacy. But there is one very important place where you are free to act without government monitoring and without any danger that you will be punished for your actions. Where is this important place? The voting booth. The place where
every so often, you can cast your ballot to decide who will be the next president, U.S. Senator, congressmen and women, state legislators, and other state and local officials. In the privacy of the voting booth, you can cast your vote for the politicians who do right and the politicians who do wrong. The voting booth, the place where you can take political action to toss out of office every politician who voted for the Patriot Act, who voted for NDAA, the National Defense Authorization Act, for CISPA, the Cyber Intelligence Sharing and Protection Act, or FISA, the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act. The voting booth, where you have the power to shut down the NSA, the National Security Agency, and end the government surveillance of innocent Americans. The voting booth, where you are free to change the world. The treasonous and unpatriotic government spying that brings us here today is not the function of a few officials abusing their power. The problem is not the abuse of power. The problem is the power to abuse. Take away the power and no abuse is possible. We can investigate the abuses of the NSA. We can put a few government officials on trial and maybe even convict some of them. We can call for reform. We can call for transparency. We can call for a kinder, gentler FISA court. But will that change anything in the end? No. As long as the Patriot Act, NDAA, and FISA remain on the books, as long as there are secret courts, and as long as the federal government is spending $75 billion on 18 separate spy agencies, do you really believe they're going to stop spying on innocent Americans? No. How many more years will it be before another whistleblower steps forward to reveal that surveillance programs remain in full force? Passing a law that violates your Fourth Amendment right is in and of itself an abuse. There are no abuses of the NDAA. The NDAA is an abuse. There are no abuses of the Patriot Act. The Patriot Act is an abuse. Voting for the Patriot Act or NDAA is an abuse. Leaving them on the books is an abuse. Every politician who voted for the Patriot Act, NDAA, CISPA, or FISA violated your Fourth Amendment rights, violated his or her oath of office, and created the inevitable consequence of the massive surveillance programs we're seeing today. There's one and only one way to stop this abuse. Repeal, dismantle, unplug, and end every law that violates your Fourth Amendment rights.
You don't know, you better ask somebody.
How do we remove these unconstitutional laws? By refusing to vote for any candidates who voted for these laws or who in any way signaled that they would keep them on the books. And by voting for the candidates who expressly promised to wipe them off the books. Repeal. Anytime you vote for a candidate who votes for any one of these laws, you're sanctioning, condoning, and empowering the government to spy on innocent Americans. You're giving politicians license to abuse. Almost every Democrat and Republican in the U.S. House or Senate today has voted for the Patriot Act, FISA, or the NDAA. Some of them talk about reforming, fixing, or investigating abusers, but they vote to keep the abusive laws in place. When you vote for any of them, you're driving one more nail into the coffin of the Fourth Amendment. Since the Libertarian Party was formed 42 years ago, it has been the only political party in America that has stood for immediately and unconditionally repealing the laws that violate your Fourth Amendment rights. Libertarian candidates and the Libertarian Party have called for ending electronic surveillance, ending warrantless searches, and repealing the Patriot Act, NDAA, and FISA. Take advantage of that sanctuary of privacy where bugs don't bug and drones don't fly. The voting booth, where you get to decide who and what should go or stay. Cast your vote for the Fourth Amendment. Vote only for candidates who expressly promise to dismantle, repeal, and abolish the Fourth Amendment abuses on the books today. Stand your ground. Vote for freedom. Vote Libertarian. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you so much, Carla. Our next speaker is Seema Sanandanan. Seema is an organizer, filmmaker, and lawyer who uses art and media as a vehicle for social transformation. She, along with DC North Star Productions, produced several documentary films, including projects focused on indigenous peoples, public property, political prisoners in the United States, and the erosion of civil liberties. She is currently a member of the Maryland State Bar and the organizer for ACLU of the nation's capital. Please welcome Seema.
Restore the fourth! Restore the fourth! My name is Seema and I'm from the ACLU of the nation's capital. In a democracy, there are no room for secret laws. Our democracy demands that the public knows and that there are limits on the rights of government to surveil us. The American Civil Liberties Union of the nation's capital, along with our allies, has filed a motion with FISA, the secret court that oversees government surveillance in national security cases. And we want FISA to publish its opinions on the meaning, the scope, and the constitutionality of Section 215 of the Patriot Act. For years, the U.S. government has relied on sweeping interpretations of its surveillance power and stifled the very debate that we are here to have today. Are the powers claimed by the U.S. government wise, and are they legal? Edward Snowden's revelations to the press are speech under the First Amendment and deserve a constitutional analysis. Edward Snowden's revelations affect every person living in this country and people living all across the globe. If the government forces were stopping individuals, emptying their bags, searching their bodies, as they do in many poor, indigenous, and black communities, we would have no doubt that this was in violation of the very spirit in which the Fourth Amendment to the Constitution was written. And today we live in two worlds. We live in a virtual world and the physical world. And it's as if the FBI has stationed an agent outside our homes and is photographing every person that comes in and out. Section 215 gag orders prohibit the companies that receive surveillance orders from publicly disclosing that they've received the orders. This is a profound attack on our First Amendment rights of free speech and association. The government has not just misinterpreted Section 215, it has rewritten 215. If we are not stunned, if we are not angry, then we don't believe in democracy anymore. We have submitted ourselves to a society where individuals have no right and the government has absolute power. If we are indignant and we demand, if we still believe in a society that preserves individual rights, freedom of speech, freedom of association, freedom of privacy, due process, if we still believe in the Bill of Rights and its future for our children, then we must fight to demand, and unequivocal terms, we must demand that they restore the Fourth.
Restore the Fourth!
All of its faults. I have the document from the Guardian's website here in front of me. It is a document that was issued as a secondary order by what's known as the FISA court. That court is the
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. We are going to continue with our program. Next up is Ryan Radia. He's the Associate Director of Technology Studies for the Competitive Enterprise Institute, which focuses on supporting free markets and limited government. Radia focuses on adapting law and public policy and the unique challenges of the information age, including areas such as information privacy, intellectual property, electronic speech, media regulation, and internet freedom. He's been published in major newspapers and online outlets such as Forbes, and quoted in media outlets such as Politico and the Baltimore Sun. Please join me in welcoming Ryan.
going to block us from the progress.
I took him.
You will, because the people are going to be behind you. Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Today,
Today,
we are joining Americans from across the country in standing up to protest and defend our liberties. Americans from across the country need to put aside our political differences today. Today, on July 4th, our Independence Day, we're not fighting against imperial tyranny, but against an American government that is run amok. We should ask ourselves, why are we standing here on July 4th, 2013? Why weren't we here on July 4th, 2006, when the programs of surveillance began? For one thing, the law silences the American companies who we use and who we entrust with our data from telling anybody about these programs. It silences their ability to fight, to tell their users what is going on. So there's not just the problem of the surveillance programs, of the secret courts, of the perversion of Congress's intent, but the idea that we can't even have a public debate about these programs. It's a sorry state of affairs that it took the leaking of classified information to correct the clearly erroneous statements of top government officials. What we've witnessed is officials in all three branches of government conspiring to violate the law and to maintain a program that makes a mockery of due process and our constitutional rights. But unfortunately, not all of our fellow Americans agree that these programs are unacceptable. The old saying goes that in a democracy, the people get the government they deserve. And unfortunately, so far, we've shown that we don't deserve a very free government. So we have to persuade the citizens that we can defend the homeland, we can defend our free society without suspicionless governmental programs, without surveilling the people in secret. We will not go quietly into the night. We will defend our constitutional rights against unreasonable searches and seizures. Today we celebrate our Independence Day.
Thank you, Ryan. Up next, we have Medea Benjamin, who is an American political activist best known for co-founding Code Pink and the fair trade advocacy group Global Exchange. Benjamin was also a Green Party candidate in California in 2000 for the United States Senate. The Los Angeles Times has described her as one of the high-profile leaders of the peace movement in 1999. San Francisco Magazine included her on its power list of the 60 players who rule the Bay Area. Please welcome Medea.
Well, I'm afraid I don't rule the Bay Area. I don't rule anything, but I am one of the patriots out here today, and happy to be with you. I wish we could get this guy to stop spying. You might think, well, if things get really bad in the United States, maybe you could move somewhere else, like Canada. Don't count on it. I can't even go into Canada because the FBI has shared our files with the Canadian government. And when people like me were protesting against getting into war with Iraq, a war we should never have gotten into, some of us got arrested for those protests. And thanks to the FBI database, now some of us can't even go to other countries like Canada. So stop sharing our information. Stop taking our information. We want our privacy back, don't we? So this is Independence Day, and before coming here, I was going down Constitution Avenue and saw a lot of people celebrating. And we do have a lot to celebrate. And I think one of the things we can join in celebrating here is celebrating those people who take great risk to tell the truth to the American people, our whistleblowers. Let us think while we are out here today in this lovely park that Edward Snowden is a stateless person wandering around in a transit lounge in Moscow while country after country is being strong-armed by the Obama administration not to give him asylum. Let's hear a shout-out for Edward Snowden. And then there is another young man, a whistleblower named Bradley Manning. Bradley Manning is facing his entire life in prison because he let us and the world know the crimes that our government was committing overseas. If you get a chance, go to his trial. It's open, the court-martial in Fort Meade. The defense starts on Monday. And if you can't get out to his trial, write him a letter and go to supportbradleymanning.org. Communicate with him. Tell him we appreciate the sacrifice that he has made for us. We have a whistleblower languishing in jail for telling us about the CIA's use of torture, a very un-American activity, and that is John Kiriakou. Let's hear a shout out for John. And I think we're very honored and look forward to hearing today Thomas Drake, another NSA whistleblower. Are these people criminals? No! Are these people spies? No! Are they doing this for personal gain? No! Are they foreign agents? No! No, they are the very essence of what it means to be an American citizen. President Dwight Eisenhower once said, "May we never confuse honest dissent with disloyal subversion." I think the Obama administration has confused these two things. These whistleblowers want, like us, to make America more transparent, more accountable, and more honorable. They want, like us, to rein in the abuses of our government. And so it is totally fitting on this July 4th, on our Independence Day, that we celebrate the whistleblowers. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Mudaza Raza. Is he here? Hi. He is a practicing physician in Frederick, Maryland, and was the 2008 recipient of a U.S. Congressional Recognition Award for establishing a cardiac seaport program at Frederick Memorial Hospital. Mudaza has served as president of the Islamic Society of Frederick and as vice president of the Maryland Muslim Council. In addition to receiving numerous awards and recognition, Mudaza has a long history of community service, including volunteering at a maximum security prison in Georgia. He is currently the president of the Maryland chapter of the Council on American Islamic Relations. Please welcome Mudaza Raza.
Assalamu alaikum. That means peace be upon you. I want to start out by asking everybody, what makes us all American? I remember pondering that question at Brooklyn College when I was taking political science, much to my parents' dismay. What makes us all American? Is it ethnicity? Look around you. That can't be true. We have an African American today at the highest office of our land here. Is it religion? No. We had a Mormon American running for the highest office. What makes us American are our freedoms, our Bill of Rights, our Constitution. And today, that very essence is being threatened by the very government that has sworn to uphold these principles. Have we learned nothing from Germany, Nazi Germany, where one thing led to another and then dissent was crushed? Anything against the government was considered treason. People were locked up without trials, without due process. We are a step away from a a police state. Just one step away. Look at New York. The Search and Seize program aimed at minorities. Yeah, I was waiting for a yeah. I didn't think that would come. Have we learned nothing from the NYPD surveillance program? Over a decade spying on Muslim Americans, and not one shred of evidence. What did that serve to accomplish but to alienate? And some people would say, well, the Founding Fathers never envisioned such a complex environment. Really? They didn't? What did Benjamin Franklin say? Warning, those who will give up freedom for temporary safety deserve neither. It's not like this wasn't thought of. Evil flourishes when good people do nothing. And that's all the good people here today. We need to continue this effort. Let me read something that I took from Nazi Germany, but I extrapolated to what one day could happen. Hopefully it will never happen. When they came for my Second Amendment rights, I didn't say anything because I wasn't a gun owner. When they came, I did. This is a hypothetical situation that will never come. When they came for my Third Amendment rights, I didn't mind troops in my house because I supported the war. And damn it, I was a patriot. When they took away people's Fifth Amendment rights, I didn't say anything because those people, they were kind of shady. And if I wasn't involved with anything, I'd be okay. And damn it, I was a patriot. When they came for my First Amendment, I didn't say anything. Well, because, again, I supported the war. And damn it, I was a patriot. When they came for my Fourth Amendment and took away my home without due process, I couldn't say anything because I had lost my first. That's what happened in Nazi Germany. Are we going to let this happen here? No! I think it was Abraham Lincoln that once said, America will never be destroyed from the outside. If we falter and lose our freedoms, it will be because we destroyed ourselves. And that is what's happening. So everybody with me, restore the Fourth! Restore the Fourth! Thank you again for coming and having me.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anthony Tejas is our next speaker. He graduated from Wabash College in 2010, where he earned his Bachelor of Arts in Political Science with a concentration in International Relations. He has worked in industries of international business and software development for an international consultancy. He is currently a Libertarian Party candidate for the Virginia House of Delegates in the 53rd District. Please welcome Anthony.
Hi everyone. Thanks for coming out. I want to wish you all a happy Independence Day. I would like to echo some of the comments said by previous speakers in regards to where do we go from here. Really, it's the repeal of the Patriot Act and the NDAA, as well as any legislation such as the Protect America Act that has infringed on our Fourth Amendment rights. As a state legislator in Virginia, I will push to restore the Fourth Amendment in my state, and I hope to build a national coalition through the Restore the Fourth
organization to spread this message of liberty across the United States. Louder! Oh, sorry. Maybe I need to be closer to this. So, with that said, I'm going to go ahead and just get into some of my prepared remarks. Basically, my speech goes over how we've gotten into this situation and debunks a lot of what has been said by the National Security Organization. So, on September 11th, 2001, our nation suffered the deadliest attacks on this country since Pearl Harbor. Immediately following the attack, a sense of national unity and patriotism marched our country towards war in order to bring those responsible to justice and prevent future attacks. In this period of national unity, the government was granted sweeping new powers to intercept electronic communications, financial transactions, and expanded law enforcement powers. Thank you. The prevailing wisdom of Washington believed that sweeping powers would allow law enforcement to disrupt ongoing plots and prevent the 2,978th victim. Unfortunately, these sweeping powers, reaffirmed in 2011 at the request of the Obama administration, eased the standard from a reasonable suspicion, as required by the Fourth Amendment, to an unconstitutional standard based on relevance. This change in operational standard resulted in the development of the prison program after the Protect America Act was signed into law in 2007 by George W. Bush. The prison program has supposedly prevented 50 terrorist attacks, according to James Clapper, the Director of National Intelligence. Furthermore, Mr. Clapper claimed that the program does not collect any type of data on American citizens. Let me repeat that. The program does not collect any type of data on American citizens. This statement has now proven to be a false testimony, and Mr. Clapper has attempted to walk back his statement, saying it was a "how long have you been beating your wife" question asked by Senator Wyden. Since Mr. Clapper has proven to be untrustworthy, it casts doubt upon his statement regarding the merits of the program. And to clarify, basically I'm going to debunk the whole idea that we're safer because of these programs. Since September 11th, 2001, the following attacks succeeded or were foiled but not a result of the prison program. December 12, 2001, Jewish Defense League plot to bomb the Muslim Public Affairs Office in Los Angeles and attempted assassination of Darrell Issa. December 22, 2001, Richard Reed attempts to blow up American Airlines Flight 63 using explosives packed in his shoes. May 2002, college student Luke Helder plants pipe bombs in 5 states, injuring 6 people, 4 of which were postal workers. July 4, 2002, Egyptian gunman opens fire at Los Angeles International Airport, killing 2 Israelis. October 2002, and this one hits close to home, 10 people are killed in the Beltway sniper attacks. October 2005, bomber kills himself in a botched attempt to kill as many people as possible during a football game at the University of Oklahoma. March 2008, bombing of an empty military recruiting station in Times Square. May 2009, small explosive device found outside a Starbucks in New York City destroys the bench it was placed on. June 2009, man opens fire in U.S. military recruiting office, killing 1 and injuring another. November 5th, 2009, Major Hassan kills 13 and wounds 30 at Fort Hood in Killeen, Texas. December 25th, 2009, man lights himself on fire in an attempt to detonate an explosive in his underwear on a plane bound for Detroit. January 2011, Tucson, Arizona, 6 people are killed, 14 injured when a gunman attempts to assassinate U.S. Congresswoman Gabrielle Giffords. And finally, April 2013, 5 killed, 264 injured when 2 brothers detonate IEDs during the Boston Marathon. Now this list isn't comprehensive, and it doesn't include terror attacks committed against diplomatic compounds such as Benghazi or Egypt, It doesn't include missions or oversee U.S. personnel that were stationed in the Green Zone and were killed by car bombs. But regardless of these omissions, the list is still exhaustive and leads one to question, what is it we are gaining by giving up our Fourth Amendment?
Nothing.
Counting these 21 attacks, in addition to other international incidents not calculated, it appears that the program is an abject failure. Interestingly enough, it also appears in a majority of these cases, the suspects had foreign connections or produced reasonable suspicion, which would have allowed the FISA court to provide a warrant to tap into these people's information as required by the Bill of Rights.
Or you could just listen to Russia when they tell you.
Yeah.
Instead, we have a massive program with so much data, our government has dropped the ball and is putting us in danger. This leads me to ask, are we truly gaining security in exchange for liberty, or have we exchanged liberty for the illusion of security? Is frisking grandma and subjecting young children to pat-downs before getting on a plane really making our country a safer place? No! And lastly, is the recording of all of our phone calls really preventing another 9/11, or are they merely providing cheap entertainment for NSA employees to enjoy our intimate conversations?
Yeah.
These questions are purely rhetorical, as we all know the answer to them, or we wouldn't be gathered here today. It's time to drop the charade and rein in these unconstitutional programs that do very little to protect us from terrorist attacks and only further to entrench the surveillance state. We do not need a program that is subject to abuse and allows the government to enjoy the pillow talk that goes on between our brave military members overseas and their partners back at home. Nor do we need a program that uses unconstitutional backdoor protocols to collect information via Facebook, Twitter, cellular, or email data. If this program truly saves lives, it is not an abject failure, as they are claiming, the government should have nothing to hide. I am calling upon the government to declassify the program so Americans can make an informed decision in the voting booth and on the streets. Thank you and Godspeed.
This is from former Congressman Dennis Kucinich of Ohio. Dear friends of the United States Constitution, thank you for being here today. A personal commitment prevented me from joining you in person, but I am with you in spirit on this day of celebration. Article 6 of the Constitution requires that senators, representatives, and all executive and judicial officers swear an oath upon office. I took this oath 8 times through 16 years of service to our nation. I swore to, quote, support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same. I swore to defend the Constitution, and I take that oath to heart. I continue to carry a pocket-sized printing of the Constitution. Across the political spectrum, from left to right, this is the document that unites us in one nation and provides the framework for success. We must continue to work to protect this important document, even when it is under threat from our own government. Many of you will recall, in the days after 9/11, on that sad day we were attacked and innocent people lost their lives. Instead of responding by opening hearts and minds, in fear, we opened secret prisons and closed borders. It's not always remembered that the USA Patriot Act did not contain new ideas to implement lessons learned from the intelligence failures on that day. In more than 10 years since the Patriot Act was passed, it's been extended 3 times. Congress waits until the last minute and pushes the reauthorization bills through without serious public debate. Now, thanks in part to your actions and your effort to be here today, the American people are beginning to join the conversation about what is and what is not acceptable. It's up to us to make clear that we will not accept this encroachment on our constitutional rights. If you see something, say something.
We now have a message from Congressman Alan Grayson from Central Florida, House of Representatives. One of the great debates among the elected officials, among constitutional scholars, and among ordinary Americans is what is the continuing vitality of the U.S. Constitution today? What does it still mean to us? The Founding Fathers had no spaceships, they had no computers, they had no helicopters. We have all of these things that have been created through 200 years and more of progress. Has that changed anything fundamental in the way that we should be governed? Some say yes, and some say no. But in one regard, nothing has changed. And that is the need for human beings to maintain our privacy, our dignity as human beings. Now, the constitutional times that was manifested in the words of the Fourth Amendment, that will be free from government interference in terms of our person, our papers, our effects. Today, that applies to our emails, our telephone calls, and so on. It is very much alive. And in fact, the modern techniques and scientific methods that exist today actually give greater force to the constitutional protections that we hold dear to the concept of freedom and with the concept of liberty. We hold these dear because, in essence, to be a free human being requires privacy. It requires a sphere around you where you can say, this is mine and no one else's. And that's what the Fourth Amendment protects. Today, the Fourth Amendment is under assault. We've learned recently that the Defense Department is actually receiving information about every single telephone call Americans make. You can call Domino's and order a pizza, and the Defense Department finds out about that in short order. It's not necessary, and it doesn't make us safer. But even if it does make us safer, even if it did make us safer for a minute, the fact is that it is beneath our dignity as human beings. And that is the secret magic of the Fourth Amendment. To go right to the heart of what it means to be an autonomous, special person, on your own, with privacy, with freedom, and with dignity. We have to draw that line in exactly the same place that the founding farmers did. If the government wants anything that belongs to someone else, a private person, they need to do so with probable cause. The essence of the Fourth Amendment. The fact that you can't simply grab anything you feel like grabbing. You have to show that the person from whom you are grabbing that information either committed a crime or possessed information about a crime being committed. Also, particularity is a crucial element of the Fourth Amendment. When the government can't go on some grand fishing expedition. It can't, when it needs information, go out and throw a dragnet and just hope for the best. Instead, it has to be specific about what it needs, get court authorization for just that and nothing else. These are very basic principles. You don't have to be a constitutional scholar to understand these ideas. And that is the beauty of the Fourth Amendment. The fact that it corresponds to something deep within all of us. A sense of self. And that is why I'm so happy that so many people are gathered here today in order to protect the Fourth Amendment, to sustain the Fourth Amendment, and to let freedom ring. Thank you. Next up for our speakers, we have Eric Spencer, who is a student at Northwestern University and a concerned citizen. Thank you, Eric.
Hi, my name is Eric. I'm an undergraduate at Northeastern University, and I'm here today because I refuse to sit idly by while our elected officials besmirch the name of democracy and make a mockery of the principles which our country was founded on. Every day, phone calls are made, websites are visited, emails and text messages are sent, and all of this data is collected and archived by our own government. Not a foreign nation attempting to wreak havoc on us, but the governing body to which we give our consent to lead and protect us. When a republic is made, a contract is signed, bonding the people of the country to their leaders. This covenant is designed to protect the people from greedy, tyrannical politicians, and to guard the leaders and lawmakers from unjust persecution. Yet in the past few weeks, we have found that our elected officials have been lying to us in pursuit of their own interests. The Fourth Amendment clearly states the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated. But several government agencies have not been true to this. They're hiding behind paperwork which their pocket members of the House and Senate have managed to pass. They've labeled over 100 million citizens of America and its allied countries as potential terrorists, rendering them subject to the probable cause clause of the Fourth Amendment. And they've ignored the Constitution and its amendments, as well as their oaths to uphold it and protect and serve the people. The fact is that our privacy is being violated by an organization with values that we don't believe in anymore. We need to remind them that we, the people, all of us, are the true leaders of this nation. Too many of today's politicians view the American people as a checkbook or a payday. We are set by as they strip us of our rights and leave us dumbfounded. No doubt this is the reason you've all come here today. Because you're done being reminded that no one is doing a damn thing to keep the principles of this country true to those of our founders. So you've come here to demonstrate that your willingness to fight and remind the members of the White House and Congress that we are the ones who make the decisions of what is right and wrong in this country. We, the loud and the proud. We, the irritated and the annoyed. We, the informed and the prepared. But most importantly, we the many. America is so much more than a defined area on a map. It's an idea, a culture, a strong set of morals which shape the laws we live by every single day. It's a sense of courage, of pride, of freedom. It's a place where people from all over the world come to follow their dreams and participate in government rather than live as slaves to it. A country where the Constitution is a leash held by the civilians to restrain and direct the government rather than shackles which bind and restrain them. It's the belief that every single person deserves an equal chance at life, regardless of situation and genome. It's where people see the future that could be and work towards making it a reality. It's where hard work and unwavering determination is valued higher than any monetary sum. But that could all disappear. Unless we are prepared to confront these principal issues such as this, we are subject to lose what defines our society. Let's remind these politicians why we are the self-proclaimed land of the free and home of the brave. It's not because we allow our leaders to stomp on our rights and build barbed wire fences to restrain us and entangle us. It's because we would rather die martyrs for freedom than live a single day as slaves to our government. It's because we believe that our personal sovereignty and the opportunity for coming generations to choose how they live is infinitely more important than any individual life. It's because we aren't afraid to stand up and take action, especially against an organization which we've trusted to maintain our lives and our liberty. Thank you.
Restore the Fourth! Restore the Fourth! Restore the Fourth! Awesome. Next up we have Robert McCaw, who is the Government Affairs Manager for the Council on American Islamic Relations, CARE, the nation's largest Muslim civil rights organization. Mr. McCaw works to develop national programs to ensure that the American Muslim community is being represented by policymakers and officials in Washington, D.C., and to coordinate CARE's national and state electives. Please welcome Robert.
Hey, assalamu alaikum. Happy 4th of July. Thank you everyone for coming here. Let's restore the 4th. Thank you. So I'm happy to mark this year's Independence Day by joining my fellow Americans here at McPherson Square at this Restore the Fourth rally. We're here for the one reason: to support the U.S. Constitution's Fourth Amendment right against unreasonable searches and seizures. Several weeks back, when reports began to circulate that the NSA and FBI are tapped into the nation's top internet technology companies and collecting the phone call records of millions of American citizens, I was told by a fellow colleague from another civil rights organization there might be a good chance that the feds are intercepting my phone calls and emails, but I'm absolutely sure that your organization and that the Muslim community is under surveillance. I had one simple response and reply: we are all under surveillance. Yeah, right. As a nation, we sat idly by while Congress passed and the President signed into law the U.S. Patriot Act and the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, FISA, the primary sources of authority from which this expansive domestic surveillance program derives. While Americans were told that these programs have been used primarily to target violent extremist groups like Al-Qaeda, federal law enforcement and national security quickly used these newfound powers to spy on American citizens. That's not right. No. This all-encompassing domestic spying program that collects and deciphers metadata from our phone calls, from our emails, from our online footprints, it doesn't only affect the civil rights of Muslim Americans, it corrosively dismantles the privacy and free speech rights of all Americans. Yeah. The 4th of July honors that triumphant day in 1776 when the Continental Congress adopted the Declaration of Independence. Let's celebrate that. Asserting the right of the America's 13 colonies that they were free and independent from the tyranny of British rule. Our nation's founding fathers rejected, and mothers rejected, the absolute despotism and the long train of abuses and usurpations of American colonial citizens' rights and rules of law. Sounds kind of familiar right now, doesn't it? Yeah. Here's a little history for you quick. Prior to the Declaration of Independence being signed, in 1761, Boston lawyer James Otis spoke against the overly broad warrants that were being issued by the British government. These writs of assistance allowed the Crown's agents to search any house or ship they wished without any specific reason. John Adams, signer of the Declaration of Independence and second President of the United States, he said of Otis's speech, "Then and there, the child of independence was born." And here we're to celebrate that birthday. Today we rally under disheartening reports that the federal government has engaged in acts of domestic surveillance and spying, which undermines those very core constitutional privacy protections and prohibitions against these unreasonable searches. While some in Congress and the White House, they say that these programs, these domestic spying programs are lawful, CARE and the civil rights community believes that the Fourth Amendment and the Constitution is clear. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall be issued upon probable cause. I'm sure if they were writing that today, they'd include phone calls and emails. Again, CARE urges the President and Congress to establish clear criteria on how long these communications are being stored and collected, and that Congress amend Section 215 of the Patriot Act in order to better enact safeguards to protect the rights of Americans from such abuses, and commit full public disclosure and transparency by declassifying these programs today. Furthermore, without any additional information about the criteria used to determine how the NSA and their analysts use these programs to only target individuals based on their foreignness, CARE remains equally concerned that these programs could be discriminating against the basis of religion and national origin. So legislative initiatives like these are necessary to protect the Fourth Amendment rights of all American citizens, including the members of the American Muslim community, which have been subjected to unwarranted and discriminatory acts of surveillance for the last decades. The Council of American Islamic Relations is proud to be a part of that long American tradition by our nation's founding fathers in asserting the rights and liberties of our fellow citizens against government abuses and usurpations of law. In celebrating today, July 4th, CARE and I personally invite you to read copies of the U.S. Declaration of Independence, read copies of the U.S. Constitution and the Bill of Rights, and then go on our website and any other organization here, their website, get in contact with your member of Congress, get in contact with the President, and tell them that now is the time to end surveillance, stop reading our phone calls, stop reading our emails, stop reading our phone calls. Thank you very much.
Just want to tell everyone that we have a table over to my left, your right, with print media for you to take with you, and also a sign-in sheet if you're interested in being a part of the Restore the Fourth movement. Our next speaker is Craig Allen, who is the president and CEO of Free Press, the national, nonpartisan, nonprofit group dedicated to advocate media and technology. Free Press is one of the founding members of StopWatching.us coalition and fights inside Washington and across the country for internet freedom and press freedom. Please welcome Craig Aaron.
All right, how's everybody holding up? Good. Who's been here since like 11:30? Before that. Yes, thank you. All right, let's hear it for the organizers of this Restore the Fourth rally. Doing it on their own time, volunteer labor. So be sure to show them some love. My name is Craig Aaron. I'm the president and CEO of Free Press. I'm here today representing our 600,000 members and activists from across the country. Free Press is an organization. Oh, how about this mic? There we go. All right, let's start over. I'm Craig Aaron from Free Press, here representing our 600,000 members from across the country. Free Press is an organization devoted to internet freedom and press freedom. And right now, our rights to connect and our rights to communicate are in serious jeopardy. There we go. Apparently I'm one of the taller speakers. I didn't know. That's why we're here today. We have members out at events like this all across the country. It's why we were one of the founding members of the Stop Watching Us coalition, where more than 500,000 people have already taken action against NSA spying and surveillance. You can do the same thing at stopwatching.us. I am so impressed and inspired that so many of you came out here on a holiday and to Restore the Fourth. Now we know the government is listening to this event, but we're not totally sure if they can hear us. So, I mean, the White House is right over there, so maybe we can try a chant. You guys have been such patient listeners. How about stop watching us? Stop watching us! Stop watching us! Stop watching us! All right. Stop watching us! Stop watching us! Stop watching us! Excellent, excellent. I think they heard that. So, there are people out there that want you to believe that the American people don't care about spying and surveillance. It's not true. Don't believe it. They're just afraid that all of those people are going to find out what's really going on. There are people out there that want you to believe this isn't a big deal, but they're just hoping you'll stop demanding answers. There's people out there who want you to believe that you can't make a difference, but they're just hoping that you won't try. They're hoping that you won't show up, but you showed up today, and we need to keep showing up. We need to keep showing up until we end these spying programs, until we restore our rights, until we get real answers about what the NSA is actually doing. As we learn every week about unchecked corporate surveillance and corporate collusion in carrying it out, this public outcry is only going to grow louder and louder. This is a nonpartisan effort. It's uniting strange bedfellows from across the political spectrum. It's not about right and left. It is about right and wrong. But I do have to say this to my friends in the progressive community, to my friends in Democratic circles, And that's, if you opposed the attacks on civil liberties that went on during the Bush-Cheney years, then you have to speak out about what the Obama administration is doing. Before I go, I want to say a quick word about the press. George Orwell said that journalism is printing what someone else doesn't want printed, and all the rest is PR. So I hope today we'll also stand up for the journalists. We'll stand up for the journalists at The Guardian, at The Washington Post, at McClatchy. Stand up for the people who are going out there and uncovering these secrets. The efforts to smear and slander and silence these journalists have to be challenged. It's shocking to me how many so-called journalists are out there coming out against whistleblowers, against leakers. How many journalists, all of a sudden, so-called journalists, are apparently against journalism?
David Gregory!
There are other people out there who are worried about journalists versus activists. This question confuses me. Journalists or activists? I say we need way, way more of both. This intrusion into our private lives is not going to be solved behind closed doors. We need to bring these government and these corporate activities into the light of day. And that's the only way that's going to happen is if millions more people like you get involved, demand accountability, demand change, and demand the truth. That's what's starting here today. We can restore the Fourth. We can restore oversight. We can restore accountability. We can restore privacy. We can restore free speech. And we can restore press freedom. We can restore the Fourth Amendment, and we need to restore the First Amendment too. And we can make sure that this is a government that is not spying on the people, but answering to them. So, like I said, the White House is right over here, but I'm hoping at this last bit we can be loud enough that they can hear us all the way back at NSA headquarters in Maryland. So, when I say we will, you say restore. Got it? We will. Restore! We will. Restore! We will. Restore! All right, thank you for being here. You're making a difference.
Next up, we have Thomas Drake, a former National Security Agency senior executive. He blew the whistle on a multi-billion-dollar fraud and a vast Fourth Amendment violating secret electronic surveillance and data mining that fundamentally weakened national security and eroded our civil liberties. He was charged with espionage by the government, facing 35 years in prison, but their criminal case against him collapsed under the weight of truth. He is now dedicated to defending life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Please welcome Thomas Drake.
So why are we here?
Restore the Fourth!
Why are we here?
Restore the Fourth!
Why are we here?
Restore the Fourth!
NSA still can't hear you. Why are we here?
Restore the Fourth!
Why are we really here?
Restore the Fourth!
On this day, the 4th of July, 2013, I call for a new American revolution. Declaring our independence from the surveillance state and government control of information. Freedom is not free. On this day, the 4th of July, let us reflect on how the United States has become the very kind of secret, undemocratic, authoritarian, imperialist nation against whom we fought the first American Revolution. We now have a government poisoning the tree of liberty. We now have a government breaking the promise of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. How dare they? How dare they?
Shame on them!
The government has taken our Constitution, our Constitution hostage, using secret law, secret rules, secret interpretations of legislation, all anathema to democracy, all anathema to our form of democracy. National security has now become the state religion of secret government preying on the privacy of the citizens to keep it safe. How dare they? Subverting our civil liberties, unchaining itself from the Constitution, vacuuming up and harvesting vast amounts of personal information about each and every one of us. Why? Why would they do that? How dare they? Our flag now flies upside down. We are in distress as a nation. Because the government has granted itself unbridled license in secret to erode the very liberties of who we are as a people. The government has given up on the Constitution. Have you? No! They've revoked the Fourth Amendment. Have you? No! They're granting themselves unfettered access to know everything there is about us. Do you want them to do that? No! How dare they? The government is in the unamendment business and turning itself into a Leviathan national security state, under surveillance always. A clear and present danger to our constitutional republic and a direct threat to all of our personal freedoms and liberties. How dare they, having the license to seize first and search later. The total inversion of the Fourth Amendment. The government is giving itself general warrants. General warrants to find out everything there is to know about us. Our persons, our effects, all of our papers, and our lives. How dare they? How dare they have the ability in secret to collect and analyze data with few, if any, constraints, especially on people, especially being done in secret, and especially without our permission or our consent. It is the ultimate form of control. Mass surveillance is eroding our privacy. I've lived the surveillance state. You don't want to live what I lived for 5 years. I stand before you free. Do you know what it means to keep your freedoms when the government did everything they could to take away those freedoms away from me? The very freedoms I took an oath to defend 4 times in my government career. And so, on the 4th of July, we must resist the surveillance state. We must resist the government and fight back because they're forsaking our freedoms for the sake of national security. Only the government can create a surveillance state. Are we going to let them? No! There is a long list of both private, industry, and government actions ripping away our privacy and our ability to speak freely about it. And when a government hides behind the veil of secrecy, practicing treason and deceit against the people, that's when it's necessary for us to stand up, speak out. Because they're taking away our rights. How dare they? Are we going to let them? No! Power and those in control, however, will concede nothing without a demand. They never have and they never will. Every one of us, each and every one of us, as the people, individually and collectively, must keep demanding, must keep fighting, must keep thundering, must keep standing up, must keep speaking out. Why? Because the acid of government secrecy is eating out the heart of who we are as a people and a democracy. Here and abroad, the blanket of national security is suffocating the liberty of the people. It makes every one of us a person of interest. This is not a reality TV show. We the people are making a declaration on the 4th of July 2013. We the people do not consent to the surveillance state. We will not forsake our rights for the sake of national security. We will not accept that the ends justifies the means. We will not accept the government granting itself license to steal our liberty and our information away from us. How dare they? We are citizens with inalienable rights. We are not subjects of a surveillance state. We do not accept the usurpations of power. And that includes our connections and our communications without probable cause or suspicion. We do not want to become a digital tap subservient to the government. We will not accede to the plundering of our privacies. And so on this 4th of July, in this capital, in this city, in the United States of America, and for all the world to hear, I declare and demand it is high time for the total restoration of the Fourth Amendment. From this day forward, we will stand up and demand they turn off the surveillance state. It is time to revolt against the revocation of the Fourth Amendment by our own government. We demand that they vacate any and all secret orders and all enabling acts that have eroded our rights and taken our freedoms away. What future do you want to keep? It is time to bind down the government with the Constitution. It is high time to put the government back in the cage of public visibility and accountability. So why are we here? I can't hear you. I still can't hear you.
Thank you again, Thomas. Our next speaker is Charlie Foreman, and he is the campaigns manager for Demand Progress, the civil liberties and internet freedom organization co-founded by Aaron Swartz, and was the driving force in defeating SOPA and PIPA. Demand Progress just merged with Root Strikers this week to take on fixing our broken campaign finance system. Charlie is working primarily to coordinate the efforts to pass Aaron's Law and to fix the CFAA, the law that determines what's legal and illegal online. Please welcome Charlie.
So, which is the actual mic? Is it this one? There we go. So before I get started, who here... Before I get started, who here knows who Aaron was? Cool. So, I spent a lot of my time working on carrying forward Aaron's legacy, and in a lot of ways, this is it. Like, people from online spaces who are coming offline to demand the changes that they actually want to see in the world. So I think that's really incredible. So before anything else, can people give themselves a hand for being here, please? So for the few of you who didn't know who Aaron was, he was really a gentle, humble, just truly brilliant human who, even by the age of 14, had already revolutionized the way that we interact with the internet. But by the end of his life, was a fierce political activist. He was a real driving force in defeating SOPA and PIPA and engineering the internet blackout that caused sites like Wikipedia, Craigslist, Reddit, Tumblr, and all sorts of sites to go black in protest. The thing about the history of defeating SOPA, though, is that it's so often told as the story of big companies, big corporations, who, like Google, who stopped this bill. When really, those companies had already decided previously that it was a lost cause, that it was an inevitability, that it was going to happen. And it was everybody else, like all of the people, hundreds of thousands of people who said that that's not the case, that we can actually do this, that we can stop it. And it was the millions of phone calls into Congress that actually changed people's minds. I think Aaron said it best when he said, if we let Hollywood rewrite the story so it's just big company Google who stopped the bill, if we let them persuade us we didn't actually make a difference, if we start seeing it as someone else's responsibility to do this work, and it's our job just to go home, pop some popcorn, curl up on a couch, and watch Transformers, well then next time, they might just win. And those words are incredibly prescient at this point because that's where we are. Like, we've heard literally over the last hour how egregious all of this wiretapping is, how wrong it is. We all came here today because we all agree that this mass surveillance is wrong. So the question now, and really the question that I think is the most important one for us to be asking, is what are we going to do about it? Like, how are we going to stop it? And the first step to answering it, as simple as it is, coming out here and all of that, is to sign in, right? So there are clipboards that are floating around. You should write your name down on them. You should write down your email on them. You should actually make sure that way we can follow up. Because to be blunt, while it's great to see so many people here, just showing up isn't what's going to change things. Like, just showing up here is not what's going to do it. It's incredible and it's inspiring and it's awesome to see so many, like literally see hundreds of people here. But that has to be only the beginning if we want to actually do something about it.
That's right.
So sign in, but even when you sign in, don't just think about it like, oh, I signed my name and that's all I needed to do. Think about the fact that when you're doing that, you should be thinking about getting ready to get involved. Whether it's with us at Demand Progress or with Restore the Fourth or with Code Pink or anybody else, because it's easy to be excited when you're around hundreds of people. It's really easy to take action right now or to promise that you're going to take action while you're here. But the thing that's really hard and the thing that matters the most is tomorrow, and it's the next day, it's the day after that, and it's all those days where we don't have rallies with hundreds of people who are all demanding the same thing. But those are the days that we most need to be working and acting and actually moving things forward if we want to end this mass surveillance. So that means that tomorrow when you get an email from us, open it. Read it. If you give it to us on the sign-in, we talked about this. Answer a phone call or make a phone call. Organize more events like this or film screenings or go with a bunch of people that you know with signs to a town hall meeting with your congressman and demand that they actually do something about this. Make them know that you actually care. Because while these rallies are fun and exciting and more than anything else really, really energizing, that energy needs to go somewhere. The only way we're going to win is if everyone takes it as their job to actually save this crucial freedom, to end this mass wiretapping. We throw ourselves into it and make it a collective battle for our rights. If we do all the things that we can possibly think of, that's the way that we're going to win. Because history is filled with exceptional moments that spark change. But these leaks by themselves aren't going to be the thing that changes history. They're not going to change the course of history, or they're not going to make themselves memorable. Moments like this become memorable because of all the things that happen afterwards, because of all the things that people like Andrea, the people who actually put this on, have been doing, and what all of you are going to do going forwards. It's all of the organizing, all of the activism, and all of the mass involvement that actually has to happen. Because the leaks have happened. What we need to do now is make those leaks the moment that ended the mass surveillance. That's on us. Because at this point, if nothing comes of these leaks, if the blanket surveillance continues, it won't leave a legacy that we want to remember. It won't leave a legacy of improving our democracy. And it's not always going to be easy. Like, I won't promise that it's always really simple. But it's going to take all of us working with it, and that's the history of social change in this country. That's a history of making things better. And that's what I'm asking you to do. That's what I'm asking you to be part of right now. I'm asking you to sign in. I'm asking you to take action in the days to come and to say yes to actually getting involved, no matter who it is that asks you, whether it's Demand Progress or Restore the Fourth or Code Pink or Bill of Rights Defense Committee or any of the other people that are here. Because we want these leaks to be memorable. We want them to be something that changes the course of history. And that's only going to happen if everybody says yes to getting involved when they're asked. So, like it was said earlier, meet someone here that you don't know. Get coffee, make plans. This August, take advantage of the congressional recess. Go plague your congressperson a little bit. And do all the sorts of things that we also don't think of or don't ask you to do. And do especially those things, because you're going to be more creative than like a couple of us who have been doing this for a while. You'll do things that we don't think of, and those are the best. So if we let like these big companies or the government or anybody else persuade us that we can't actually make a difference, if we see it as someone else's responsibility to do this work, and it's our job just to go home, pop some popcorn, curl up on the couch to watch Transformers, well then this time they will win. and let's not let that happen. Thanks.
Thank you. Next up we have Scott Somerville, who is a coordinator with Restore the Fourth, and he's also a concerned citizen. Welcome, Scott.
How are you guys doing today? First of all, I'd like to thank all of you for coming out here. I'd also like to thank our prestigious guests for coming today. We had a lot of good guest speakers. I'd like to bring a different message to this, though. We stand here today not as Democrats or Republicans or libertarians or progressives. We stand here today as Americans, and I think that that's a message that we need to remember. My apologies. We stand here today, I see so many groups working together, groups that I never thought I would see. It is important to set aside our respective differences in this cause, for government surveillance, intimidation, and subversion is never good for a free republic.
It sure is.
Remember the common bonds that bring us here: freedom of expression, freedom of assembly, and of the press. This rally is not only to restore our Fourth Amendment rights, but to start a movement to restore this country, to restore it to a framework that allowed it to achieve greatness. Something that cannot be forgotten here today is you, all of you people here. This movement is you. If you weren't here, it would be in vain. All of this would be for nothing. As of 1 month ago, I hadn't even used Reddit. I had no idea how to use the website. I saw Edward Snowden go on Greenwald's interview and immediately decided to take action. I'm a regular dude. I work... Thank you. I work retail. I have a normal job. Yet I was able to get involved here, and you need to remember that. This event is proof of what people can do when they work together. The message of freedom is a popular one, but not everyone sees it that way. It is our job, everyone here, I want you to go, and it's our job to educate the American people. I've heard a lot recently from friends and peers that have said they don't need to worry about PRISM or any revelations recently about government surveillance because they have nothing to hide. If you have nothing to hide, you have nothing to worry about. Am I right?
Blackmail!
No.
Blackmailing congressmen. That's what you need to worry about.
To me, it's not even about having anything to hide anymore. They don't tell you what you have to hide. With secret courts, secret rulings, how can you tell me with 100% certainty that you have nothing to hide? The Computer Fraud and Abuse Act of 1984 has been amended 7 times since it was passed over 30 years ago. While computers, yes, have changed, and the onset of the internet, these amendments do seem reasonable. But what is less advertised about this bill is with the current wording, it would make it a felony to lie about your height on a dating website. According to at least one former federal prosecutor, the current wording of this legislation allows them to, quote, incarcerate any internet user they want. As I said earlier, I'm new to Reddit, so when I heard of Aaron Swartz's death, it saddened and disturbed me. It disturbed me that government intimidation had led a man to kill himself. My apologies again. Aaron was looking at 35 years in prison for downloading and distributing scholarly journals. And the Justice Department's legal precedent for this cruel and unusual punishment was the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act. A law that, if went before Congress today, as written, I don't think it would pass the initial committee hearing. If each one of you carries this message to one other person, think about what you can accomplish. So on your way home, I want you to think about what this movement means to you. I want you to think about what you want to get out of it. This is a message of inclusion and solidarity. Remember the common bonds that bring you here. We are here to restore our constitutional rights. And the last time I read that document, it began with "We the people."
Yeah!
This republic was created for, of, and by the people. And I think it's time we remembered that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Next up, we have Julian Sanchez, who is a research fellow at the Cato Institute, a nonpartisan libertarian think tank that promotes the principles of individual liberty, limited government, free markets, and peace across a wide range of policy areas. Julian focuses on issues at the intersection of technology and civil liberties, and in particular on the rise of the post-9/11 surveillance state. He's also a former journalist who previously worked in as the Washington editor of the news site Ars Technica, a blogger for The Economist, and is an editor for Reason magazine. Please welcome Julian.
Thank you all for being out here. So at the dawn of the Cold War, America's intelligence agencies began building a vast surveillance machine. It was a machine with many parts and a code name for each part, made from copper wires twisted around switchboard nodes, made from manila envelopes marked June mail bound for J. Edgar Hoover's personal and confidential file, made from human informants, made from the magnetic tapes couriered to NSA under Project Shamrock, holding all our international telegrams. It was made from the computer punch cards, holding the names of Americans on Project Minaret's watch lists to be filtered from those telegrams for analysis. That machine was turned on civil rights leaders, journalists, activists, elected officials, anti-war protesters, civil rights leaders. It was turned on H. Rap Brown and Stokely Carmichael, I.F. Stone and Jane Fonda, Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali, and above all Martin Luther King, as the FBI waged a 6-year war to destroy and discredit him so he could be replaced by the right kind of Negro leader, as they called it, meaning one controlled by the FBI and the American intelligence community. That machine's source code was written in secret memos and directives that distorted the law and ignored Supreme Court decisions. But democracy ultimately proved stronger than that machine, and in the late 1970s, we took steps to dismantle it, to impose limitations, safeguards, and oversights, and restore the Fourth Amendment.
Yeah.
Decades later, time and fear had dulled those memories, and we began building a new and far vaster machine, as far beyond Hoover's as an iPhone is past an abacus. The new machine was built from fiber optic cables, feeding into secret rooms at telecom offices, built from the multi-billion terabyte storage facility that the NSA is constructing in Utah. The new machine has programs with names like Prism and Pinwheel, Blarney and Stellar Winds, and the source code is still secret. The old machine was large but limited. It could spy on the government's enemies, but not on everyone. The new machine can. It is wired into the cell phones in our pockets, and the internet switches that route the websites we read and the emails we write. And when it is turned against us, when it is reprogrammed in secret, there may not be anywhere left for us to hide. One of the targets of the old machine was the Berkeley Free Speech Movement. And one of their student leaders, Mario Savia, gave a famous speech where he said, "There comes a time when the operation of the machine becomes so odious, makes you so sick at heart, that you can't participate, even passively. You've got to throw your body upon the gears and upon the wheels, upon the levers and all the apparatus, and make it stop." It is that time again. It is time to throw our bodies upon the gears and make this machine stop. It is time to restore the Fourth.
Thank Thank you. Our last speaker of the day is Sanho Tree, a fellow at IPS, the Institute for Policy Studies, and is the director of IPS's Drug Policy Project. Sanho is a former military and diplomatic historian and has collaborated in the past with Dr. Gary Apovitz, the decision to use the atomic bomb and the architecture as an American myth. He was also an associate editor of Covert Action Quarterly and an award-winning magazine of inventive journalism. Please welcome Sanho.
Thank you. We're here on the 4th of July to commemorate the Declaration of Independence. So let's go back and look at that pesky second paragraph. The part where it says that government derives its just powers from the consent of the governed. It is the most central concept in that document. And yet, we cannot give our consent to secret wars, to secret laws, to secret programs, and secret committees of oversight. Now, our Sunday talk shows will say, and David Gregory and others will dutifully repeat, oh, we have a system of checks and balances. There are official channels people can go through to whistleblow.
What a liar.
But the system is fundamentally broken. We now rely on Congress, the most dysfunctional of the three branches of government at this point, to provide our checks and balances against securocrats who have run amok. So Congress is paralyzed today in ways that are more profound than in the 40 years that I've lived in this city. That today, Congress is paralyzed by third-rail political issues and partisan politics. Now, for those of you who are outside the Beltway, you may not be familiar with the third rail. Third rail politics refers to controversial subjects that have counterintuitive solutions that are political toxic issues. They're radioactive. It comes from the subway system. Two rails carry the train. Third one is high voltage. If you touch it, you're dead. So typical third rail issues are like the drug war, U.S. policy toward Israel, gun control, global warming, and especially national security. And these are issues where no member of Congress really wants to take a strong position other than to go with the flow, because if you do, you run the risk of being swift-voted, of being singled out and during your re-election campaign and being attacked for being soft on drugs, soft on not a friend of Israel, or soft on national security. And that has historically been the equivalent of garlic to vampires when it comes to Democrats. They crumble if you accuse them of being soft on national security. And so there is no one left to provide these checks and balances. Moreover, we have not only the congressional overseers, but their staffs are intimately connected with the defense industrial complex, the securocrats. It's those places where they'll go after they leave public service to really cash in on boards of directors, to become lobbyists, to be in acquisitions. That's where the real money comes from. They have no incentive to provide honest checks and balances. And those that do run the risk of being swift-voted. What the framers of the Constitution could not have imagined, could not anticipate, was how quickly our system of political campaigning has degenerated nowadays. Much faster than the ability of our political systems, institutions, to compensate for that degeneration. That is what's leading to this paralysis, and that is why correcting this issue becomes so difficult. The Prime Minister of Luxembourg was talking about a different third rail issue domestically at the time, but he had a very good quote. He said, look, we all know what needs to be done, we just don't know how to get re-elected after we've done it. That is the problem with so much of Washington today. So it is clear that our system of checks and balances is fundamentally broken, and the idea of going through official channels to whistleblow is a mockery. You've heard from Thomas Drake, you know about John Kiriakou and all these others. The war on whistleblowers makes this impossible. So what we have now is a perfect storm of forces. You have the third rail politics that paralyzes Congress and the executive branch. Then you have the powerful contractors and industries that are lobbying for ever more funds to do things that are unchecked and secret. And then you have the securocrats, the bureaucrats in this national security establishment who bristle at the thought of any type of oversight and accountability. So if we don't fight against this culture of secrecy, against this culture of national security, then the consent of the governed is meaningless. And if you can't give your consent, then eventually our public servants, those securocrats, eventually become our masters. Thank you.
Friends, first First, I want to commend and thank you for taking time during a busy holiday weekend to stand and let the politicians know that our constitutional rights are indeed important. Your voices will be heard. Restore the Fourth. Our rights and our liberties are under attack. They are under attack by a federal government that wants to control our lives, manage our behavior, and decide what is best for us, whether we like it or not. Our Fourth Amendment protections against unreasonable searches and seizures are no exception. From being groped at the airport to having our bank accounts, computers, and phones monitored, privacy has become an illusion. A few short years ago, I joked about the day that would come when each of us would have our own personal drone following us around. It's not funny anymore. It's frighteningly close to reality. As recent disclosures in the breadth and scope of the NSA's surveillance of us have come to light, it is unfortunate that the news media has called it a scandal. Friends, a scandal is when a politician gets caught with his hands in the till or uses the IRS as a personal weapon. It is not a mere scandal when the Congress and President enact laws such as the Patriot Act, FISA, and the NDAA, and then use those laws to shred the Fourth Amendment. Those aren't scandals. They are laws and policies adopted and carried out by elected officials who work for us. And what President and Congress have done, they can undo. We all want to be safe. We all want the federal government to fulfill its most basic responsibility to protect us from those who would do us harm. But I don't recall the government asking us if we were willing to throw away our Fourth Amendment rights. It is just wrong when the government can get our phone records, read our emails, and otherwise dissect our lives in total secrecy with nothing more than a rubber stamp of approval from an equally secret so-called court. Due process actually means something in America, or at least it should. By gathering here today, you are reminding the politicians of that fact, and I applaud you. As a people, we have fought wars, shed blood, and risked all to preserve the very rights that are today being threatened by our own government. It's time to say enough is enough. Thank you. I'd like to bring Andrea O'Neill back onto the stage for our closing remarks. Thank you so much for being here. It means the world to everyone in the United States.
I'm so short here. I just wanted to make some quick remarks and thank you guys from the bottom of my heart, from the bottom of our hearts for coming out today. It means the world to me. We have been working so hard to raise awareness for this issue, and to see everyone in this crowd here, to have our speakers here today, it floors me that we were able to do this in 23 days. So thank you for coming out. Thank you. I want you guys to remember that today is not only about the fireworks and the concerts, but it's also the day that we celebrate our declaration of freedom from tyranny. Let's continue to hold the ideals that our forefathers fought so hard to bring us. Thank you for coming out. Restore the Fourth!
Thank you again. Happy Independence Day, everyone.